एक मिनट रुक जाओ, रेडी होने दो. चलो ये कर लेते हैं. This could be a great intro.
Hi, I'm Akshay.
Hi, this is Saurabh, and you are listening to the Founder Thesis podcast. We meet some of the most celebrated startup founders in the country.
And we want to learn how to build a unicorn.
Hi, I'm Nipun. I'm the founder and CEO of Likeminds.
I'm sure you've all heard of the Great Resignation. I would rather say what we're seeing right now is the Great Migration. People are leaving regular corporate jobs to become more entrepreneurial. And one of the most exciting ways in which people are becoming entrepreneurial is by becoming a community entrepreneur. What does this mean exactly, a community entrepreneur? Essentially, anybody who is creating content for his followers and adding value to them. It could be a beauty influencer on TikTok, or it could be someone like me who is creating content about the startup ecosystem. And as this type of entrepreneurship picks up and gains steam, we have the next generation of SaaS founders who are building products for this set of entrepreneurs. In a way, how Shopify built products for e-commerce entrepreneurs. Today, I'm talking to Nipun Goyal, the founder of Likeminds, who's building a product for a Shopify type of product for community entrepreneurs. And Nipun's own journey has been a fascinating one. He grew up in a very small town, was probably the only one in his town who got into IIT. And interestingly, he did not really choose the regular path of corporate job and instead became an entrepreneur pretty soon after graduating. And this is his second venture. His first venture was also in the space of community. So here's Nipun telling me about that whole journey of becoming a founder.
This has been story of my life. Got rejected in 12th, bounced again, cleared IIT, got like really bad in academics, bounced back, improved my GPA, placements also, like the same thing happened. So during that struggle was happening, I was trying to find a job, but as a backup, I thought, I should also start exploring something. And like couple of my friends, we started working on, like me and two of them, we started working on this research on what startups can we do. We shortlisted healthcare, finance, education as core sectors, and we wanted to work on core sectors. Eventually, we narrowed down to healthcare, and in healthcare, we started up with this medical tourism company. So the essential idea was we get patients from abroad and get them treated in India. Indian medical facilities were far better than any of the developing and underdeveloped countries. So for these countries, instead of going to USA for a procedure, it's 5 to 10 times cheaper if they come to India, including the air cost, especially for surgery. So got few patients. Eventually, we got our jobs. So we started doing our jobs. But yeah, I mean, over next couple of years, we always had that in back of our heads that we are already working on. Never left that basically. Committing ourselves to that small step really helped. After sort of working for 1.5 odd years, we realized that we have to go full time. If this thing needs to
on the side, that continued to generate some revenue, the medical tourism business.
It was more experimental. I think in the first few, like 6 to 8 months, we realized that we don't want to continue that exact business because one, it was very ops heavy.
What do you mean by we? Like your batchmates?
Me and two of my friends. Yeah. Both were batchmates from same college. So we decided we don't want to do like a very ops heavy business, want to do something tech oriented. So we saw that instead of making patients to travel from one country to India, the same pattern could also be seen domestically where people from smaller towns were traveling to larger cities for treatment, and referral was a big thing there as well. So started exploring that market, and also started thinking how can we do it tech first. So essentially, like I would say 1.5 years down the job, we decided that we'll pursue it full time. Didn't leave our jobs, but like that decision was made कि यार छोड़ना तो है अब job. So we started with a idea that, can we make a network of doctors where they will exchange referrals with each other, and there were kickbacks which were existing in the industry. We thought we could regulate them, but since it is borderline unethical, initially we didn't see a lot of traction there as well. So I think
So this
broadly,
means like if I'm a GP and my patient needs a eye surgery, then on this platform I can find an eye surgeon and I can
Exactly.
agree to a revenue shares kind of a thing or something of that nature on the platform only, and I can refer my patient to that eye surgeon.
exactly. So the only difference from what you said was agreement of the revenue share, because, like I said, it is considered unethical to take a kickback from referral by a doctor. So these arrangements were generally done, in few cases offline, where people would not sort of do the transactions online, but offline. But like a lot of doctors also don't take kickbacks. So from a kickback model, we actually shifted more to a genuinely referring a patient, finding the right doctor in the nearby town, and connecting with them, and eventually referring the patient because the patient deserves a better doctor in that specialty.
Okay, so you were saying that I mean I described what that business was, and then you said it was not exactly like that. After that, I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, so I was saying the difference between what you just described and what it was that the kickbacks were not happening on the platform, and
Okay,
originally,
so it was more like a
while
chat interface.
it was more like finding a relevant doctor near you. Let's say if you are sitting in a small town, let's say in Hanumangarh, and you want to refer a patient to Gurgaon, which is, or Jaipur, which are the two sort of tertiary centers, and like a lot of these decisions are also based on where the patient wants to go, because they might have a family in Jaipur or Gurgaon. Uh, you know, the idea was, can we create like a directory of doctors which can be exclusively given access to only doctors, and then the doctors can use that directory to find other doctors and maybe call them up or chat with them and refer a patient. So that's where we started from, and what this did was not like, see, because this is not like the only thing that happens in the industry. There are a lot of doctors that also genuinely want to refer without a kickback as well.
Right,
For the
right, right.
betterment
So
of
this
their.
was like a LinkedIn for doctors in a way.
Exactly. So that's where we started from, and I think this is the idea on which we left our jobs as well. We
You
knew
left your
that.
job without any promise of funding, etc. Just on this idea that
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't get promise of funding without leaving your job, especially if you are a first time founder. So left our jobs. Of course, leaving an investment banking job was something that was difficult for my family to accept initially. But like always, they've been, they've had faith on me. Like, in even in the quota days, they had faith. Like, they didn't intervene much in general in my decisions. So that is good. But anyways, we on that idea where we had figured out that digital healthcare is something that can be solved by bringing doctors online, because like everyone else was very active online, and doctors were not. Like the only place where doctors by that time were coming online was WhatsApp. Like other than WhatsApp, you would not see them being active. This is 2014. So we and like one of the very interesting thing that later on we saw was, doctors were being part of these WhatsApp groups, and they were discussing patient cases in those WhatsApp groups. So that was a very very interesting
like knowledge sharing.
exactly. So that was a very interesting insight that we got later on once we started committed to doing the venture. So I'll come back to that. But like in terms of the journey, what essentially happened was we left our jobs, started with few interns from the same college, couple of others as well, like four interns we had. Uh, I think one of the key hacks that we found at that time was we got like Medanta to sign up all their doctors on our platform, because this would essentially become like a free referral channel for them. So we had built an app after, I think, leaving. It took like a couple of months. So we made sure that they downloaded the app. So I think on an average we would get like 1, 2, 3 maximum doctors a day at that time. We also hired like an army of interns at that time who would travel around and do the same thing like us. Uh, and essentially what happened, by this method, we got like, I think 3-4 thousand doctors on board in the network. And that is
you
when,
call this Curify, like the app and the business, or the name came later? Like, was it called
so that
Curify?
was,
Right?
it was called Curify at that time. Yeah, it was called. I think the initial thing was 911 India, but when we left our jobs, we had shifted to Curify.
Like a cooler.
The medical tourism venture was 911 India. So essentially, at that time we were able to raise from few angels when we had these like 3-4 thousand doctors, and Medanta was there. So at least like this model could be seen, where by some way you could bring in doctors together on a platform. At least
But out of these 4,000, how many were actually using the platform to connect? Like,
very less. So essentially, what we realized later on was referral is not a daily use case, right? And like a lot of doctors would might use it once in a while whenever they don't know a doctor of a particular specialty. So we essentially also sort of started introducing news in the product. And within news, we sort of made it specialty wise. So, giving a doctor news for their specialty became like a more regular, frequent use case for them. And this way, we got like few more thousand doctors. And essentially, that is when the WhatsApp insight came in, where we saw doctors using WhatsApp groups to discuss cases with each other. And there were a lot of other things that were discussed in those WhatsApp groups as well. I think one of the key insights that I can draw from hindsight.
but how did you get access to those, like, doctors
Exactly.
only? WhatsApp
So that's
groups?
what I was. It's awesome when you know who you are catering to. You should just hang out with them. Like, feel like find friends, find friend of friends. They will like show things to you by themselves, right? So hang out in the community that you are catering to is probably the number one learning that I feel I could derive from the whole experience so far. So like once we had that hit like critical mass, we sort of opened up the discussion forum in the platform, and that is when we started feeding content as well. Initially, you have to do that a lot. Over time, what happened was we saw discussions happening naturally. There were two primary type of discussions happening. One was discussion around cases, and the second was discussion around violence against doctors. So, no, it sounds funny, but it's real. Like, lot of doctors are facing, in small or large form violence, and like it's a profession where people get emotional about the outcomes, right? Like patient relatives and all. So we decided that we want to focus on just the cases use case, because we felt there is a much more value in consumption of that content. Like with the other type of content, you would never feel, coming back again on the platform for consuming that content. So we stopped everything else, started focusing on us on making it like a case discussion platform for doctors. So from a LinkedIn for doctors, we actually slowly pivoted to Stack Overflow for doctors.
Okay, help me understand what is Stack Overflow. I have not used that.
So Stack
myself.
Overflow is the platform used by engineers whenever they are stuck on any code problem. They go to this platform, and there are enough people who have contributed around queries similar to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's like a Quora in a way.
Like a Quora in the modern days, you can say. I think the only big difference from Quora was we were very image heavy. So so think of it like an Instagram or a Facebook kind of interface where the case can be understood just by the image. It could be a report or it could be like a real picture of the affected area.
Yeah.
So that became the experience which people came and experienced again and again on the platform. So one of the other key insights I would like to share here was, like while case discussion was the main engagement use case for us, the acquisition use case still remained like until, even later of part of the venture, be part of the largest directory of doctors in India. Like that FOMO feeling was very, very critical. So you could have like while building a community or like any product have different use cases for acquisition and retention. So it's important to think out, which are like these use cases.
Did you start monetizing?
We did. We intended not to do it until we really go global, and we started moving global before monetization. So started seeing like a good initial traction in countries like Middle East, wherever there is Indian population, they would relate a lot more with the community that we had. So yeah, I mean, we did globalization a little bit, but I think there was a time that's something I think I will not go into a lot of detail, but we had some internal discussions going on, and we were raising at that time, and because of certain constraints, like even after having term sheets, we were not raising at that time, and the only way to survive was to monetize.
How did you monetize?
We were getting like a lot of these pharma companies, healthcare devices companies. So another interesting insight is, I think at that time I remember we were whenever we would pitch to investors, we would say healthcare is $280 billion. I think it was projected to be $280 billion in 2020, and out of which I think some 70-80 billion was spent on medical devices and pharma and doctor focused marketing. Like wherever marketing is doctor focused, those part of healthcare were some 70-80 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And
like
that is where
the conferences and the foreign trips for doctors and all of that stuff.
yeah. So that market is 70-80 billion, and that market cannot be directly advertised to patients. That is where all these. So even if let's say 10% of that is generally that is 20-30% expense towards marketing to doctors, there was a very nice like 10-20 odd $1 billion marketing expense or advertising expense towards doctors, which is what we were going after at that time in India. So like
which is also what I think, if you've heard of this company in the US called Doxify, I think.
Doximity.
Doximity. Sorry, yeah. Doximity is something similar to that. No, they've also built like a LinkedIn 10 billion valuation when they went public.
Yeah, they did IPO. We were like, fuck, this could have been but I think it's fine. No regrets, to be honest. I think being a first time founder, getting an exit early was also helpful.
How did these investments come to you, like these opportunities? Like, I mean, how do you enter that
reasons.
space?
I think two main channels. One is, like own IIT/entrepreneur network that, I think a lot of people from IIT today are doing entrepreneurship, and like all of us are very connected, if not formally, but like one-on-one connections. So you keep getting these introductions, and like a lot of entrepreneurs, they reach out to you cold, and like the ones who you resonate with, you like to spend time with them, and like they also honor, like for example, one of these companies recently got into YC. So like they had spoken to me, they were healthcare. I sort of just had one call, and they probably liked the advices that I had given to them in that call. And like I told them that keep me posted. I probably didn't like say yes to them for investing, but when they were like closing the round, they came back. I was like, it's fine, like I'll be happy to participate, and then they got into YC recently.
Okay.
So two primary reasons. One is the IIT/entrepreneurial network, and second is healthcare. So like I get a lot of deals on healthcare because of probably having the credibility around that.
How much did you make from that exit, if you are at liberty to share?
it's not public. It's not public. But it was good. Like bought a house, started.
Your parents
investing.
were happy that the risk
Yeah,
paid
yeah,
off.
yeah. I think my parents were happy, but some of my extended family still feels, what did I do with like a startup? It's still risky. There is no surety even today. Like, I remember one of my like paternal grandfather. Like, we have a very extended family, so he's still like confused. Why did I go for it? But yeah, I mean, most part of my family is happy.
If you like to hear stories of founders, then we have tons of great stories from entrepreneurs who have built billion-dollar businesses. Just search for the Founder Thesis podcast on any audio streaming app like Spotify, Gaana, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to the show.
Okay. So then what? Like once that sale happened and you decided to move on, when did that happen? Around 2019, I guess. End
Yeah,
of
so the
19.
sale happened and there was a transition period. So we stayed there until 2019. Uh, I think when I exited, I had a rough idea around what space I want to go for. But I think after exiting, started committed deeper into it. Hired like a few sort of early people, and
What was the idea that you had?
I think at that time I was figuring it out, but like the core idea was, like communities are awesome, right? And we had like a lot of people who were building communities on WhatsApp. So that was again a very, very key insight for me, where instead of, platforms which are much more organized like Facebook, LinkedIn, people were increasingly moving to WhatsApp to build communities. So
And which
the
you saw
reason which
with the doctor community, that whole experience.
exactly, so that was also there, but like over time, like during the transition period, I saw this whole phenomena. Like every month, I would be at least getting invite of one such group on WhatsApp. So got very, very curious. I found it really, really powerful because by then WhatsApp was the de facto platform to engage with people who you trust, who you relate to, who you already know, and that being used for building like a very tight knit network seemed very, very powerful. I think initially it was awesome, but over time, I realized that the engagement there also fizzles out, or if the engagement grows, it becomes spammy for people. So if the community starts scaling beyond, let's say, 30, 40 active members, who are regularly chatting on it, it would become spammy for the rest of the members, and WhatsApp experience would not be the optimal experience for such people. And
Plus,
what I
WhatsApp has
realized,
that 256 number limit. That's
exactly,
also
exactly. So a lot of people were shifting to Telegram at that time. They like, it's almost the same time when I was figuring out what to do, and like this was one problem that stuck with me. I think Telegram's approach was also good, but I thought, like if you want something where you have to engage like a significant number of people, on a regular basis, a single chat experience will not work out. And something like what Slack and Discord do, having like threads for different. Uh, so the idea was, can we build something which is, multi-threaded chat like Slack and Discord, but with a mobile-first experience. So that's where I started from, and I think it took like a lot of time to figure out what exactly in this space is the problem. I think one of the core thing that I started as a value prop was discovery of communities on the platform, but like realized that have to build the supply first to really fulfill that discovery. Initially, I was doing like a hack where we were creating these communities by the system. So I created a beautiful algorithm in my mind. It was called LPIG. So L is legacy, P is profession, I is interest, and G is geography. So if you combine any of the two factors, so if let's say I take myself, my legacy would be the institutions that I've been part of. So institutions could be my hometown, the colleges. Uh, then the profession could be like professional attributes could be entrepreneurship, healthcare. Interest could be whatever interest I have. Geography, for example, could be Gurgaon. So if I combine these attributes, so for example, IIT Delhi alumni who are entrepreneurs in Gurgaon, that gives me a WhatsApp group.
Right. Yeah, it does.
So the idea was, can we pre-create these WhatsApp group type communities on the platform and let the people have threaded conversations in them? But
So whenever someone signs up, then they have a whole menu of communities and they can choose which one they want to join.
based on the parameters that they enter, I think that is where we started from. Uh, I think by that time we had incorporated our company.
So who's we here now? You continued with the same co-founders or?
No. I found a new co-founder. This was a tech first co-founder. My other two co-founders were more like business first in the previous company. So him, me, and then like couple of other people who I had hired. So I think that went well.
And your version 1 launch was what? Like, help me understand that go-to-market version 1 launch. What was it?
Exactly
Like,
what I
what was
told
the
you. The algorithmic communities that we had some 50,000 communities which we had created on the platform algorithmically, and we started onboarding some people.
So what was it? Was it like a chat app or like what? How was it?
The pitch was discover relevant communities and engage with like-minded people in it.
Okay, so it was like a social network.
It had primarily two things. One was discovery layer of communities, and the second was chat between the members. And then there were features like polls, like the chat was much more enhanced than WhatsApp. Like every community could have different threads, so that bit. But I think
and this was a mobile first experience.
This was a mobile only experience at that time.
Mobile only, okay.
So we started sort of seeding certain communities as well.
And how did you acquire customers? Was it like Facebook ads and Google ads and all? Like,
Facebook ads.
How was your
Facebook ads? Started seeding like a few communities. Eventually realized that this is not something that will, like, at least in the early days, will work out, because without the community manager, a community there always has to be a community manager. So either we as a platform, we start becoming a community manager, or we find people who are ready to, manage those communities. And in the earlier days, there was nothing for them on the platform, right? Either you have people and then you incentivize people to build awesome communities on top of it. So we didn't have that, and we also were like, we were okay in terms of tools, but like there was no single tool that would sort of be the champion to bring in a lot of community builders. Like for example, on Clubhouse, people moved because there are audio first tools which were not there in the social space at that time. So I think that was one key learning. We eventually realized that communities cannot exist unless the community manager is incentivized to run a community. So we sort of started figuring out, what to do with that ecosystem, and how do we get more tools for the community managers to sort of have them on the platform. I think did a lot of experiments around that, and the thing with this venture is it is a very, very core tech, in terms of the amount of tech efforts that go, building a chat which is simple like WhatsApp, and then also building a social network layer on top of it. So it's like combining the WhatsApp and Facebook experience, both on top of it. It took a lot of time in terms of making that transition. So essentially, I think somewhere by end of last year is when we started onboarding some of the community managers, and we actually completely removed the discovery from the system, because we felt that community, which are communities which are not being run by anyone, will be a negative experience for our members. So it's better to only show discovery which are relevant communities, and we started focusing on thinking that will build the supply of the communities first and then open up discovery. So once we started focusing on community managers, again, one of the key learnings after a few months was community managers who were having an intent of doing something with that community for sort of entrepreneurial gains, like for monetary gains, would generally put in a lot more effort than the people who were just doing it for the fun of it.
Or
There
being
has
an
to be a
influencer.
fun. Exactly. So we also started focusing to narrow down the experience around how do we solve for these community builders who are also entrepreneurial, who want to monetize these communities. And that is when we realized that the whole market is basically this whole creator economy which is shaping up. And the whole creator economy, the thesis is that the whole uh, set of people, and probably this is something that will happen over next two to 3 years, where a lot of creators will want to own the audience that they have on the social platforms today, right? When I mean own the audience, it also means that reaching your own followers doesn't need an algorithm to be fighting against with. So for example, if you have your followers on YouTube or Instagram or any channel for that matter, even like Facebook groups, uh, you are not sure whether your members will receive it. The algorithm decides that. So that seemed like a very, very big factor in the long run, which is essentially called the decentralized internet theme, where the influencers should have the ability to have their own mini social network or internet. And then the other theme was creator
Which is
economy,
also what
which is
Substack is offering.
exactly. And the other theme was this whole creator economy, which is again what Substack is also doing, where you help these creators monetize their audience. So we saw this trend that a lot of these creators were using platforms like Slack, Discord, Telegram to to manage their existing audience and do things with them, like paid events, paid courses, which is not just selling a brand which they generally do on social media. So that became very, very interesting for us. And I think over time, like long story short, we I think 3 odd months back, we sort of launched with the new direction, where now we are a platform for creators who are also entrepreneurs, to help them build a branded community where they own the audience and then monetize that audience via various digital first services like paid events, paid memberships, where you build like a paid club with exclusive membership, and paid courses, paid consultations. So the core architecture remains the same, where they are managing the community, but the intent of managing the community is very, very clear now. So over
So
last 3 months,
eventually monetization.
exactly. So not even eventually, like a lot of these people are already monetizing. Like one of the key learnings and within last 3 months that we've had is it's better to go after creators who are already thinking of monetization at least. So I don't want to ideally pitch to a creator ki yaar, you can also monetize. I think they already know that they can monetize. They need to see certain examples. So we want to help people who are already thinking of monetizing, or already monetizing, and we want to give like them this whole toolkit, this whole SaaS, where they can own their audience and make the most out of the audience in terms of monetizing it.
Give me an example of community entrepreneurs, like a few examples, people who are maybe using your platform. Like what kind of people are they and how do they monetize?
Sure. So there is this, I'll give you two very broad different examples. One is this creator who is a stand-up comedian uh, called Garb Malik. So he was, before he met us, he was running like 5, 6 WhatsApp groups, one Telegram group, Zoom for host. So the idea for his community is that it's like an online comedy club that he's built, and he's charging a monthly membership for accessing these comedy events online. Uh, and like he hosts regularly like shows. So they, while you can have these shows on a individual ticket level as well, but you could also be a member where you want to sort of see these shows anytime, anywhere you can see that. Not anytime, but like real time. Uh, so he was using a lot of tools, not only these, but for seeing analytics, he was using another tool. For managing the link of Zoom, which can be leaked, he was using another tool. So someone like him, when he presented Likeminds to him, it feels very appealing because he could do all that on a single platform. And so today, he runs this community with 3-digit number of members who have subscribed to his community membership. And like he keeps on bringing new comedians, do like make them do shows. So yeah, I mean, this is one use case. A very, very different use case is, about these. There are a lot, but let me pick one. There is this, this brigadier who runs this online academy. Again, something that he was doing on like events on Zoom or Meet, and then running a Facebook group for the academy and multiple WhatsApp groups.
Academy teaching what?
Teaching life skills, primarily around time management and goal setting. Leadership skills, I would say, primarily.
Like a Tony Robbins.
Yeah,
someone who aspiring to be a Tony Robbins.
Right. So now he also launched a membership community on the platform. Also launched few courses which he's now upselling to the community, as well as the outside members, and give them the community if they buy the course. So these are like two different examples. One is like a club use case, and then the second is more like a micro school or academy kind of use case. Now, this is very different from, let's say, a typical coaching institute where you would do like tests and attendance being mandatory. This is not that use case. There is a lot more value in peer-to-peer networking as well in such communities. So that is the core difference between some of these coaching center apps versus us for these academy or micro school use cases.
And typically, what do they charge? Like a couple of $100 a month, or is it like a monthly fees that they charge for membership?
So in many cases, it is monthly, like 3 digits rupee. But there are communities which like have even monthly fees of 700-800. So there is this yoga instructor who runs a very successful, again, 3-digit membership community on the platform. She charges, I think, somewhere around 800 odd rupee per month. They also have like quarterly, annual, 6-monthly packages. Generally, the model is you get a lot of people who start with monthly plan and they renew with these quarterly, annual, and
for better rates.
Right. And like one of the core problems that we are solving for them is managing these renewals on the app itself. If someone doesn't renew, blocking their access, nudging them to make sure that the renewal happens. Similarly, one of the key things that we are now focusing on is event turnouts. How can we improve event turnouts in such communities? One, of course, in paid membership communities, but also into free membership communities where if someone registers, can we help them, like help the creators to have a better turnout, or like even in free communities, can they also monetize individual events? So, for example, in the same case of this comedian, he could also onboard members for free and let them engage in the chats in the community, but for an event, they have to pay. So they decide which chat spaces are open for members. They decide which chat spaces are linked with a specific event or a course. You could also run like a cohort based course on top of this community stack. So that is where we are heading to. Our idea is, community has to be essential for a business who we work with. Slowly, we are also venturing into moving away from just individual led communities to smaller team led communities, where we see that the intent is much more to sort of build the community for long term.
Okay, like a business doing it instead of an individual doing it. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So, do you have inbuilt tools for creating courses, for creating video events? Like, do you have all of that, or those are external tools that are plugged in? Like, say, a Zoom webinar is created and shared over here.
So right now it's external being plugged in terms of video. Like there is, of course, a stack of cataloging an event, taking payments on top of it, taking registrations for a free event, sending reminders, giving them analytics around these events, how many people registered, and then we also have ways to capture who all attended the event. So right now the video is streamed on the choice of platform by the creator. So could be Zoom, Meet, any platform. Even for example, in this case, the link of this podcast, that can also be sort of linked with the event button.
Right.
But
like a paid podcast, one could launch a paid podcast on it where only members can listen to the podcast.
Exactly.
This could also be a replacement for OnlyFans, no?
In some way, yes.
But is that something you are okay with?
I think we are not really targeting that segment right now. Not very, very comfortable with that use case. But never say never.
Because of the legal gray area, or what?
Exactly. It's not just legal. I think we've not seen enough inbound. Like we are right now only focused on India. Probably the market is also not that mature. So yeah. We have not categorically said no, but we have definitely not focused on the segment as well. So far we haven't received any creator in that segment who wants to do this.
So, what is the journey of a community owner when they sign up? Do they get is there someone in your team who handholds them through the process, or tell me about that. Like for a new, say I decide, okay, I want to do a community around my podcast. So what would be my journey on the platform?
So essentially, you will once you've shown your interest, we will do a basic call with you to understand your goals and whether we are the right fit as a platform for you. And we'll also tell you
so
what
every community manager is manually vetted, as of now.
As of now, yes.
But that's not very scalable, in the long term.
I know. In the long run, we'll have to move to automated onboarding. But one of the things that we've recently introduced is, fixed monthly pricing for using our software. So that helps in checking, that only serious community builders are coming.
So as of now, people need to download the Likeminds app. The community owner doesn't get a white labeled app and all that.
Yes, as of now, yes.
But there would be some custom link that he would send to his followers, which would directly land them to his community. Okay.
And now we've also created a web version of this. So, in web, a new version that we're launching later this year is something where we are going to give them custom domains. So the whole software of the community So, for example, if you have a community today on Discord or Slack, you don't need to use that. You use the similar experience of, let's say, a Discord or Slack, which is similar to Likeminds on desktop. Our mobile experience is WhatsApp heavy. Our desktop experience is going to be Slack or Discord heavy in terms of the look and feel. So instead of discord.com/something, it would be Akshay's podcast or whatever name that you have for your podcast, .com/community or community dot what, and that will render the whole community interaction experience for you. So white labeling on web is something that we are launching soon. White labeled app is something that we want to first evaluate whether there are enough takers for it, because of course that will cost them a lot more than what the web experience is costing them. So yeah, I mean that is where we are, but we feel that there will definitely be few takers for it. And the thing is, like I said, this is a market to be created for next 3 to 5 years, especially in India. So I think over next few months we'll also make a decision around whether we go global first or whether we see enough traction in terms of white labeled and going deeper into like the Indian market.
So, can you? I mean, the creator economy is like the next new buzzword. Like say 10 years ago, e-commerce was that thing which all the startups were chasing. Today, it's the creator economy or the creator entrepreneurs, especially around community building, that everyone is chasing. So can you tell me the space, like give me a lay of the land, like who are the players in it, what are each of their strength areas, and where does Likeminds fit into that lay of the land?
Yeah, so like I told you, there are different, I think two primary themes that are there. One is decentralization of internet, which is where like a lot of platforms like Discord, Slack, Telegram are doing it at scale, where the audience is owned by the in a way owned by the platform, by the creator. The other theme is monetization of creators, where there is a huge number of platforms doing n number of things. So, for example, there are platforms like OnlyFans, which are catering to a specific use case of creators. There are platforms like I think Clubhouse is also going to venture into that at some point, where you want to sort of go after podcasters to sort of monetize their podcasts as well. But that will remain like a discovery led platform as well, so primarily going to be used around discovery. Then there are a lot of these cohort based course platforms that are coming up, like there is this platform called Maven in US, and then in India also there is this platform recently launched by an academy into this cohort based course space. So that is there, which is a lot more around horizontal use cases. Similarly, this horizontal use case monetization platform is Class Plus, where you would see these. So I think there are different needs. Correct. So there are these different needs which are being captured by these different players. So, for example, within the like the cohort-based course phenomena, one space is where you bring in the audience for them. Like probably Clubhouse is doing for podcasters. There are these platforms like in India there is Front Row, there is BitClass, where the core value is cohort-based courses, but there they will own the audience. They will bring in the audience, and the educators and creators just need to take the courses. Now.
What about like Facebook groups? Like that's like the big daddy of communities, right?
I think that is going to evolve into how probably MySpace evolved. It just died down. I think the good thing about Facebook is that they keep innovating, keep coming with new products. I think there will be a space for them for sure, mostly centered around discovery of new audiences, capturing new audiences that will still remain on those platforms.
So
But I
that will
think
become like a top of the funnel where creators
exactly.
can find new members and then direct them to one of these decentralized platforms.
Exactly. So they will continue adding value on these platforms as well, because the more value they add, the more incentivized they are going to be around, enabling these kind of behavior. But the core is who owns the audience. Like in long run, creators will want to own the audience in some way. Like so that is where I see these platforms. I already told you about. I feel WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack, all of them will remain similar. I think WhatsApp will evolve a lot more into e-commerce use cases for small business owners. I think that's where I think that will evolve, and then I think even like the very very space that I am going after, which is the community platform space. Uh, I think people will find use cases. So even like today, we are little generic. While we are our core difference is we are heavily focused around monetization of communities. Some of the other community platforms are just giving them spaces to host their audience. Uh, like one innovation, of course, is on their own domain, which we also give. But I think even in that, like giving them easy products to monetize their audience is something that we have picked as a niche in this space as well. Now, whether we will have like one use case around that monetization or multiple use cases, that is still to be seen. I think we feel that two use cases which we've sort of figured out so far, one of which we'll go big on. One is membership communities, and second is event-led monetization. Could be course as well. We see courses as just a linkage between different events within the community.
Right. Okay. So you have a lot of data of users. I mean, surely you would have a thought that, I mean, it's an asset which you're not utilizing. Right? You could, for example, in some way monitor, like you said, you have some 3-digit creators. So each of those creators would have maybe 3-digit followers. So, maybe you would have some 5 or 6 digits in terms of the user data with you. You're not thinking of any like way to monetize that?
I think we've taken that decision that we want to go for the like enabling ownership of data to the creator instead of ourselves. So we're consciously taking that decision that we will not do that.
Okay. How many users are there on Likeminds today?
Like you said, it's in 5 digits.
And
End
how many
users,
of them
right?
are? Yeah, end users. Yeah. And how many paying users are there? Like who've ever made
So
it?
most of them are paying. Like we've just recently started this use case around events. So far, we were just focused on memberships. So people would come only if they pay for the membership of the community, right? So now
But a
we
lot
are
of them would be
also,
free. I mean, I'm sure.
right, so like I said, we so far had only focused on membership. So people would manage their top of the funnel on the social networks, the free users on the social networks, and they'll ask their members like them to
The
sort
paying
of come
members
here.
to come here.
Exactly. But like lately we've started seeing some of the creators who also want to bring in their free members here. So early in that, but like over next few months, I think we'll have a lot more free users as well.
And the creators can create a different experience for the free versus the paying
Yes.
members. Like some content can be for free members, some content for
Exactly.
paying members, and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you could create like different events or different chat spaces for different category of your members.
So, what's your vision for say 2025? Like what kind of numbers do you want to?
So I'm not, like I said, we've intentionally dropped thinking about the end customers, but like we see ourselves as someone who wants to serve 1 million creators by 2025.
Okay, that's amazing. And like, what kind of revenue are you expecting to do this year? Like, you get
like
like about 5% of the membership fees that they pay, right?
So we have multiple plans, and again, we are figuring out our revenue share. What is the optimal one? We've started with 5% for the base plan, and there is a higher plan as well, where we also allow them to integrate within their payment gateway. So it's again more and more moving towards, not owning the data, not owning the data. So we want to maintain that DNA in the long run, and that is why we are even open for white labeling, because it doesn't matter to us whether users, like end users, are downloading our app or a third app or a second app. So yeah, I think numbers. I would say we are still early. We are not chasing any specific revenue numbers, but like I said, we the North Star metric is how many creators are we catering to. So we would like to reach, at least in few thousands, in 1 year. Let's see how that goes. Uh, I think we are still in the product building phase, to be honest. And I don't want to chase numbers until we have that mindset कि यार product build हो गया और now we just get creators on the platform.
Right. Okay. What changes as a second time founder, from the first time?
A lot of things. A lot of things, yeah. I mean, it's almost like, you have seen one cycle, and especially, once you've seen the good cycle where, you made some money in the process as well. So I think it changes a lot in terms of that. You become much more mature in terms of approaching everything. You become much more thoughtful while taking these decisions, and you have access to talent better. You have access to capital better. Sometimes I feel, it's also different in terms of the rawness that is there in first time founders. I feel sometimes I've lost it. Not thinking before doing is also important in a lot of cases. So yeah, so for example, a market like Curify, probably I would have never picked up if I was a second time founder. So I think second time founders generally pick something for long run. I've seen a lot of second time founders increasingly picking up SaaS plays, because it is less riskier in general. You could bootstrap for longer, or work with smaller capital. So your dependency on investors also reduce over time. So I think generally I've seen SaaS plays are only picked up by more matured founders. You would not see a lot of college kids picking it up. You would see either people who have worked in an industry for a while, or people who have run a venture. There are always exceptions, but or even the first time founders would pivot into a SaaS business. So
I think
that is one big difference.
SaaS needs a more polished product to come out.
Exactly.
Whereas if you're doing something B2C, you can do a half-baked product and keep pivoting until you find product market fit. But in case of SaaS, you have to come out with a more polished product first, and then pray that it finds product market fit.
Exactly.
And someone who wants to make a pitch to you as an angel investor, what do you advise him or her?
I think this is a framework a lot of people use as angel investors. They just see two things. One is the market size and whether the team can do something meaningful in that market. So whenever you are pitching to an angel investor, try to answer these two questions very, very clearly to yourself, and then only start pitching.
This episode of Founder Thesis Podcast is brought to you by Long Haul Ventures. Long Haul Ventures is the long haul partner for founders and startups that are building for the long haul. More about them is at www.longhaulventures.com.